Hey YouTube, my name is Sven, welcome to the Metal Foundry. In last week's video I have showed you part of my guitar collection, the second part of my guitar collection actually. And yeah, a metal guitar player is nothing without its amplifier, and I think it's already the right timing to make this video because Glenn Fricker uploaded his video, the 13 reasons why an amp is better than an amp sim, earlier this week. So I wanted to take advantage of that timing and show you my amp collection. First of all, I will show you which amps that I have in my studio and which ones that I use for my live gigs with Hopi Roads. And I will also tell you how and when I got each amplifier, and at the next part of the video I will riff a little bit through each amplifier and let you listen to the tone and the sounds and some of the settings, and some of my favorite settings at least. So without further ado, let's dig in! Before I start off, I want to thank all the subscribers that have been subscribed so far. There are still a lot of you that watch my videos without subscribing, so I would invite you to click the subscribe button and to click this notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video, because I'm going to make much more fun stuff in the next year, but I'm not going to make too many promises because, yeah, you never know what will happen. But hey, stay tuned and I promise it will be worthwhile. So without further ado, I will start with my first amplifier that I bought. The very first guitar amplifier that I bought I've already sold. It was the Line6 Vetta II. It was a fun amp at its time, at least for me. I really enjoyed playing through it in my bedroom, and I lived with my parents. And it was the first amplifier that I really, used to learn to play guitar with. In hindsight, there are a lot better amps in the market, but I did not regret anything. I actually made it worse, I think, because I combined digital with digital. So I used a Boss GT8 in the front of that Line6 because I wanted to upgrade my tone, and I thought that would be a good idea. Guess what? That really was not a good idea. Fast forward to 2016. I lived in France. And I told you that story about get a tube amp, and at least in one of the first videos that I made was the 10 things that I wish I learned earlier when in 18 years of playing guitar, and one of those things was get a tube amp and get a good amplifier. So the first real tube amp that I bought is this baby over here. That's a Blackstar Series One 1046L6. That means it's a 4-channel 100 watts amplifier with the Series One, and with 6 L6 power tubes. I bought this one in a French guitar store in Nantes, and I think I even got a financement for that one. I financed it, means I paid it off in 4 months without extra costs. And I bought it with the matching 4x12 with vintage 30 speakers in it. Was the first real tube amplifier, and a new world opened for me, and I really started to understand what it was all about. Don't regret anything. The reasons why I bought the amplifier are very simple. I wanted to have an amplifier that has a lot of gain for my settings and for the music that I was playing. And I wanted to have an amplifier that I could control with MIDI, because my whole setup was already MIDI controlled. In the beginning I used my Boss GT8 as an amp controller and as a complete system to scape my sound around. That means I used the built-in boost pedal and I used the built-in wah pedal, and I could, with the 4-cable method, I could set all the preamp, all the effects that used to be before the preamp, like the wah pedal and the boost pedal, before the preamp, and I could put the time-based effects like delay and modulation and so on in the effects loop of the amplifier, which made it a very versatile combination. And whenever I changed the patch, it changed the channel of my amplifier, which was very cool. The 4 channels, I used 3 mainly. I used the clean one, I used the overdrive 1 and the overdrive 2. The overdrive 1 is basically my rhythm channel, and the overdrive 2 is my lead channel. So I could boost the channel volume a little bit higher than the other one, so my leads would come out louder. What I also like about the amplifier is the dynamic power reduction, so I can play at lower volume and still have tube amp distortion when I want it. And what I also like is the ISF function, the infinite shape feature, so I can switch between American and British sound. I mean, basically, I think it's kind of a mid sweep, so you sweep the mid curve from one part to the other part to get more high mids or to get more low mids. I still use this amp today, but then I switched my Boss GT8 out with a G-Lab GSC4. This is a guitar system controller, also with MIDI capabilities and a true bypass switcher. And later on I have exchanged that one for a Boss ES8 that I showed you in my pedalboard build. And also another reason why I bought a Blackstar is I was a huge fan of Devil Driver, so I almost got the exact same setup as Mike Spritzer was using, but with some changes. So instead of an ISP Decimator Pro Rack, I had a Rocktron Hush 2C, and instead of a G System by TS Electronics, I had a G Major 2. The next amplifier that I bought was last year, which was the Line6 Vetta II that you know from my Mesa shootout video. I bought this amplifier because I've always dreamt of owning a Vetta. A lot of very famous guitarists used a Vetta live as well, some even for the recording of their albums. The biggest name out there is Meshuggah, and Ola Englund made a very excellent video in a couple of years ago with the Line6 Vetta II that was owned by Frederick Thorndahl of Meshuggah. And yeah, it was an amazing amplifier. Especially, for if you have a studio and want to try different sounds, and if you want to play around a bit with a couple of different amplifiers without having to actually buy the amplifiers, you can still have quite a good idea how the amplifier sounds. It's actually a modeler, but it can be used as a real amplifier, so that's why I put it here. Because it does not only have model amplifiers, it also has Line 6 models in there. I believe the Line 6 Insane is in there. And the Line 6 Strat Plate is actually a model of a model. So Line 6 modeled their... Line 6 created a model of a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier, and for them it sounded that good that they actually modeled that one as well. That's the Line 6 Vetta II. When I play with the Line 6 Vetta II, I use the built-in noise gate and I use the built-in Stombox feature. I also have the FBV floor controller. And I have the matching 4x12 Vetta cabinet, which is almost a flat response cabinet. It has Celestion speakers inside that are made for Line 6. They're a little bit flatter than a classic Vintage 30 or another amplifier, but you would still use the built-in amp simulation and cap simulation. When I use this amplifier, I use either the 4x12 cabinet or I will play through my Blackstar 4x12 and then I will switch the cap simulation off. The next amplifier that I bought is also a tube amp. It's also a Blackstar, but it's modded a little bit because it doesn't really look like a classic Blackstar Series One. This is the Series One that's sitting over here. This is a 100 watt 2-channel version. This means it has the clean and the crunch channel, and with the bright clean and the warm clean function and the crunch and super crunch function on the crunch channel. I used this amplifier live with Hope Erodes, and I basically only used the crunch channel so far. And I used my Boss GT8 in the 4-cable method as a pedal board so far, because I used that setup in the rehearsals and it sounded great in combination with the band. So I didn't want to change it out just before the shows. But for next year I will carry along my big pedal board and my Blackstar 4-channel version. I bought this amplifier this year second-hand for 300 euros, which is a steal, but there's been some modifications. So one of the previous owners has put it in a different enclosure. That means he built a complete new shell on it for it. So it's a different toe legs. The grill is different. The logo is on the other side now, and he has put 2 handles on each side. This one is loaded with EL34 tubes. It has a nice warm sound. I basically use the crunch channel with this one, but I will let you, and I use a super crunch mode, and I will let you listen to it in combination with my pedal board that I have down here. The last amplifier that I bought this year has always been my holy grail. From the first moment I saw it on stage with Godsmack, with Korn, with Metallica, and you've seen it in a lot of new metal videos and metal videos. One of the videos I can think of in the first place was Straight Out of Line by Godsmack, where they have a big wall of Mesas. And now I said the name. It is a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier. This puppy over here. This is the 3-channel version. This is not the original version that had only 2 channels. I bought this one secondhand from one of my friends. It came with EL34 tubes, but one of the tubes was broken, so I had it retubed with 6L6 tubes, how it came originally, because I'm a 6L6 tube guy. I just like that sound. For me, it's more the sound that I'm looking for. Even though I'm using EL34s now in the Blackstar Series One over here, I still love the fact that this one has 6L6. And as you know, I am also a MIDI guy. I have everything controlled by MIDI. And yeah, the two Blackstars and the Vetta have their own way of being controlled, either via MIDI or via the appropriate foot controller. But the Mesa doesn't. You have to have either the classic foot switch that comes with it, but I have found a different solution also made by G-Lab. This is the MIDI amp controller, MAC 4x4. This is basically a controller with 8 cables, and these 8 cables can be used to switch different parameters. You can have different inserts at the back of the Mesa Boogie in which you plug these plugs, and then you have a MIDI in and a MIDI through, so you can basically control the Vetta over MIDI. I haven't figured out how it works yet. This is still on my to-do list, but yeah, I have to make some time to figure that one out. As soon as I got that, I will tell you more about it. Unfortunately, G-Lab stopped making products for guitarists. It's a pity, because they had brilliant products, if you ask me. The GSC4 was a brilliant foot controller. The wah pad is also a very good idea, and this one is just great if you have a non-MIDI controlled amp and you want to control it over MIDI. They also had a Soldano version. They also had a PV version. It's a real pity that they stopped making it, but hey, yeah, companies make decisions, and yeah, the end users and the customers have to live with that from every once in a while. So now I've been chatting quite a lot, and now last but not least, which is also a very important part of my setup for my studio, if I want to make amp comparisons or if I want to play with headphones. And in order to record my amps, I use another tool, which is for me right now is the best thing that I ever bought in years. Is a real friend of my tube amplifier. This is the 2 Notes Captor X 8 ohms version. This is a reactive load box, which is also an attenuator built in, and I can also use it as a cap simulator, or I can just use it as a dry DI out to record my amplifier, so I can use an impulse response afterwards to either have it reamped or have it sent through an impulse response from another studio. And as Glenn Fricker said in his videos, miking up a cabinet is a real science and is something that I haven't learned yet. So without further ado, I will now let you listen to the amplifiers and some of my riffs that I like to play through it. And I will use the 2 Notes Torpedo Captor X, and I will use the virtual cabinet that I have in my collection, which is in this case the Blackstar 4x12 loaded with V30s. First I will go to my basic settings with my OD1, channel OD1. I have the Screaming Overtones pedal. Settings that I'm using on Screaming Overtones are gain 0, volume completely at full, clipping position number 2, and the tight switch is on. I will switch it off. Tone is at the middle. Now I'm moving to the overdrive 2 position. They share the same equalization, so I will not fiddle with that, but I just changed the overdrive, and you will hear it's also different coloring. Now I've switched to my Series One 100 and I'm going through the same settings. Good, now I go straight into my Vetta. Now I go to my Vetta. I've hooked my ESP up directly to my screaming overtones. Then I go straight into the Vetta. I am using no post-processing effects. I'm using a California diamond plate, which is basically a Mesa Boogie model. These are the settings that I used for my Mesa shootout video. I haven't figured out my sound with this amplifier yet, but since there's a vast load of amplifiers in there, I still have to figure a lot of things out. But now, for now, I will just have some fun with this setting. For the final amp that I've discussed, this will be my Mesa, and now I will let you listen to the settings I made for that one. I still haven't figured out how I want this amp to sound. This is just what I used for my Mesa shootout video. I haven't really figured out what settings I'm going to use in the end. I still have to do some studying to do and figure it out with my colleague Wim in Hopi Roads, because I will not just, if we want to play live together, we have to match the amp settings together to make sure it sounds good for us and for the audience. So yeah, I will just figure some things out now. I'll just play some basic riffs and I will let you listen to that and have some fun with it. concludes my video for this week. I hope you had as much fun as I did making this video. This really made me think that I should play some more guitar here and spend some more time on these amplifiers to figure things out, how I want them to sound and how I want to shape my sound. Changing amplifiers is a bit like changing guitars. It gives some new creativity and you get some new impulses and new energy to make something completely new from scratch. I am very happy with these amplifiers and my neighbors are very happy with the Torpedo Captor X. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comment section what amplifier was your favorite and why. If you like the content I'm creating on this channel and you want to help me grow my channel, please subscribe and click the notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video, which will be every single week. My name was Sven and you've been watching the Metal Foundry. See you, bye bye.